historic South Texas Derby that has decided a finalist in the Western Conference in the USL Championship playoffs. Welcome to the Striker Texas postgame show. We're here at Toyota Field. We got an all-star panel. Roberto Silva, the managing editor of the Striker. We got Tim Check, who covers San Antonio. And we got Edson Ochoa, who covers RGVFC. Victor Riza, your host. Guys, was it what we expected, Roberto?
Man, I think was a great game. There were some characteristics today, especially with RGV. Well, let me change. San Antonio was the San Antonio of always that Czech always says: come out strong, score one, sit back, and just wait for the game to be over. And in some moments they ended up scoring 3-1 was the final score. And the part that I thought was very interesting with RGV today, Edson, was the fact that I very rarely like teams that don't create opportunities of goal. And they basically didn't create today, right? But the style of play, controlling the game around, trying to make the games, playing offensive, it is incredible that a team that plays so offensively couldn't create chances.
And I have to disagree on a specific portion of what you just said. That they were able to kind of orchestrate the ball, even with although they didn't create any chances. Yes, they didn't create any chances, but at this point, it was one of those moments where when they had the ball, it wasn't more. It was more about I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with the ball. I don't know how to break apart this San Antonio defense that I gotta hand it to you all came out strong, and there really wasn't any intention for them for throughout the most to create danger or try to find something different until Alexis Cerritos came in the late 60th minute. And I saw what I saw from the Toros tonight. It was a team just without any idea, a team that you took out Christian Sorto from from being on the team. This team had no idea how to play without him. This team was so used to having him out on the wing to try to create and open up the space that without him they didn't know who to put in that position, how to play with that position.
Key piece for RGV missing Christian to international duty, of course. Jonathan, you've seen San Antonio all year. Was this their best game?
I don't know if I'd say this was necessarily their best game. There were a few good ones. I remember first half away in El Paso, they were up, I think 3-0 in the first half. Another where they beat El Paso here, but it is a damn good performance, and that's what you need at this time of the year. And also, you just need the result. And SAFC, I think, had a performance to match it tonight. We talk about the difficulty that RGV had getting through that defense, and Alan Marcina, SAFC's head coach, will tell you it is not just those three defenders. It's not just the goalkeeper. It is all 11 players getting back and doing their duty. Even Santiago Patino scoring 2 goals tonight would still...
And talking about Patino, right? We talked about the beginning of this season. I remember we had on one of the first episodes of the Strike Tejas, we were talking about, and I'm very critical of the forwards or the center forwards for Austin FC. And we were talking about how I thought the Patino would fit very well in that team. And then Mark Bay was a little bit again saying, no, well, Patino is playing another level. It's not the same thing. But I truly think that what a first half that he had, right? He's that kind of center forward that you want on your team.
Showed up when it mattered. Tell us a little bit more about Patino. Was this pretty much built as expected? What else can you say about the forward for San Antonio FC coming out big tonight?
Yeah, first of all, in terms of Austin FC wanting to get Patino, good luck. I'm sure SAFC's not going to want to get rid of him anytime soon, especially because Patino's had quite a year. Scored 5 goals in the first month, and then had a few matches away for a suspension, and then 3 months off with injury. So it was only about a month ago, really, that he came back into the team, made a few sub appearances, and now these last 2 games he's come up with 3 goals, 2 of them just being in the right place at the right time, really being a fantastic poacher. And I think any team could benefit from that, honestly. But especially a team like SAFC that is very aggressive and takes a lot of chances, puts a lot of shots into the box. You never know where the ball might fall, and Patino is very constantly in the right place at the right time. And I'd be worried if I'm either Oakland or Orange County, because you never know when he might pop up. It could be the first minute or the 91st
Talking
minute.
about that, that game is going on. Just finished the regular time. It's 0-0 in Orange County. If Orange County wins this game, San Antonio goes and plays away Orange County next Saturday at the final. If Oakland wins this game, we're back here at Toyota Field next week. One thing that I think it's interesting overall at this season for both of you, and I wanna ask your both of your opinions is. Last year, San Antonio had that amazing regular season, right? An amazing came to the playoffs and lost it, right? But it's clear that this team was created last year, right? It's the base. The base comes from that. The culture that Marcina puts into the field, into the team. I have a feeling that RGV this year is the San Antonio from last year. I do think that the base was created. I'm the kind of like to see the positives in everything, and I do think that you guys have in RGV have an amazing year next year because the base is created. I like this team, man. I really like to watch this team.
It's a very enjoyable team to watch when everybody's on the same page.
When then they make the playoffs too.
Yes. No, but regardless of if they make playoffs or not, there are some matches where you can see where they at least have an idea on what makes their opposing team, what breaks them down. Today, they didn't. I gotta also hand it to San Antonio. The quickness in how they think, and I'm going to receive the ball and I'm going to pass it real quickly, and I know my teammate is going to be there to receive the ball, whether it's in short spaces or in long spaces. Marcus Epps drove the midfield crazy. Really, Rodrigo Lopez, I talked in the pregame about how him trying to recover balls from San Antonio was going to be key. You didn't see that. You didn't see that from him. Why? Because there was no time for him to have an opportunity to pounce and recover the ball. There was a couple of moments in the first half, especially, where RGV tried to replicate that quick touch passing, but they couldn't. They misplaced the ball multiple times, and it just looked like a team that just didn't have enough chemistry to try to even tickle San Antonio.
Yeah, this was you talk about the opening, and I think we might touch on this a little in more detail in a moment, but SAFC was really sharp. 4 shots just in the first 10 minutes. I mean, Jose Gallegos had one like 30 seconds in, and the Toros kind of had some loose touches, weren't quite settled to begin, and it just set the tempo for the first 60 minutes of the game. SAFC was on the front foot, and the Toros were trying to catch up.
It looked like it caught them by surprise, and that really, I think that could be a little bit of blame on Wilmer Cabrera for not preparing this team for a team that was going to play against you with high pressure to try to recuperate the ball quickly, that was going to pounce, even if it's like the first 20 seconds of the match. They were going to go up and try to establish dominance in their home field. It seemed like they were waiting for a milder San Antonio, a San Antonio from the regular season. Papa, this is the playoffs. You're not going to play the playoffs like a regular season game.
So talking about that, interesting part also for me was how fighting, how mad, how difficult the San Antonio players made for the referee this game. At every single moment, even when they were up 3-1, they were putting pressure on the referee. They were fighting against the RGV players. It was very interesting. I don't know if this is a common thing. We would say that maybe it is because all the fights that we had over the season. But very interesting how even when they were up, they were still putting that pressure. And I don't know what you guys think, but I really like the referee today. He was able at a difficult game to referee. He led the game play, which South Americans like. I like that. I don't like that referee that stops for every single play. He let the play go, and if I would have criticism to, I think he talked too a little bit too much. He could have talked a little bit less, especially in the first half, giving some cards instead of talking. Besides that, it was a very hard game, and man, we don't see this level of referee even on MLS sometimes. I think.
Yeah, it's something that a talking point certainly. But this is what these kind of games are, right? It's a one-off game. It's a knockout stage. You can't show up on your bad night. Maybe that's what happened for RGV. You talked earlier about how the team was built quickly in the off season. Overall, it has to be declared a success for RGV, right?
Definitely, I think it definitely sets the building blocks for the future seasons of RGBFC under Wilmer Cabrera. I was talking to Jonathan as we were coming over here that I honestly did not think that RGV was going to make it this far, and they did. Even considering all the challenges of building the squad at the last minute, they were still able to. Grab a fourth place finish in a very, very competitive mountain division.
Yeah, two things I'm going to say about that. One is I saw Alonso Cantu coming out of the stadium right after when the game was over, and I met him. And when you talk a little bit, I congratulated him for the great season, and his phrase was that said, "And we put this team together in 4 weeks, right?" And it is again. I say that I think they got a great base for next year. Talking about how difficult our Western Conference is, the East Conference, the final is the final that everybody thought was going to be before the season started. We're going to have Tampa Bay playing Louisville at the final. It's almost like that happens every year, man. Well, who could imagine at the beginning of the season that the final of the conference would be Oakland, Orange County, and against San Antonio? It's such a great competition on the Western Conference.
Yeah, Jonathan, again, going, maybe share some of the things you wrote. Obviously, the strikertexas.com. You can check out Jonathan's video on San Antonio FC, Edson's video on RGV FC, the result today. Is this team for real? Can this team win the USL Championship trophy in 2 weeks?
Of course they can. They are one of 4 teams. 4. You can count them on one hand that are still in this. And like I said earlier, at most, it's 240 minutes of good soccer that you need from here on out. That is, just a couple hours. Anything is possible. And, we saw that last weekend with RGV upsetting Phoenix, with Oakland upsetting El Paso. You never know what's going to happen on any given night, and you can't rely on that form and everything like they do in the Eastern Conference.
And playing Orange County or Oakland, it's not even an upset like the ones that you said, right? I think it's the same level of teams. We talked before. Maybe Orange County a little bit more structured, a little bit more traditional, and always up there. And Oakland a surprise, but I think San Antonio is on the same level. Maybe will be or could be an underdog in the final against Louisville or Tampa, but that's I know I'm gonna be like the coaches do. We have another game before that one to discuss, right?
And it may sound like a cliche, an overtried cliche, but defense really wins championships. And I think what Marcina has done with San Antonio this year to lock down, to find his back line, that even without Cardoni as a keeper, they're still able to avoid clear opportunities on far, and a lot. And when you have such a good defensive team, when you limit the opportunities of the other team, even if you have 1 or 2 opportunities, but if you put them in, if you have a poacher like Patino on your team to take advantage of those opportunities, you can set yourself up for
talking
success.
about goalie. Did you guys think it was a mistake on the first goal? I think you could have saved that instead of just handing it out.
I'm going to be
outside
honest. Colin Miller really did not have a great game. I think most of the goals, I can tell you that I think for me, the first one, may not have been 100% his fault. I think it's more on the fault on Babu Karjai, who just stood still instead of following Patino and trying to find that rebound. Yeah, I think maybe he could. I think the way the angle from where Gallegos' shot was coming, the only logical place where he could have probably parried the ball was at that angle, but that has to be, that's where your defender has to be and follow the play. And RGV did this against Phoenix. They stop, raise their hand, trying to call for an offside. You can't do that until the referee blows the whistle. You have to continue the play. And it's something that RGV, I talked about the defensive mistakes that RGV continuously makes, and you can't do this in these kind of games. I don't want to say they got lucky, but they were able to bounce back against Phoenix. But when you're playing against a better defensive squad,
Yeah,
you can't make those.
And they were kind of the underdog against Phoenix. They had also a little bit more of set pieces that helped them get back into that game. That one was a little bit more crazy than this one. This one, San Antonio had a little bit more stranglehold, I think, as the game kind of went on. If they have to go on the road, obviously we're awaiting the result. But if they have to go on the road, can San Antonio get it done? Are they that good?
I seem to recall their road record this year being just about as good as their home record. Now, you can add some caveats to that in that they played New York Red Bulls to Sacramento Republic, didn't finish the season in spectacular form, even played away at Las Vegas Lights. But there is that experience of going on the road and I'm sure getting through some adversity, maybe some travel difficulties, and finding a way to get a goal and then being very strong defensively. And I'll also say, building off of the defensive solidity that we've seen tonight and over the last few matches, over the last month, really, it's so crazy to see that, because if you listen to our USL Championship podcast, The Striker Tejas, for the first couple months, SAFC had what I called a carousel of central defenders. I mean, we haven't seen Axel Schuberg in a few matches. Liam Doyle went out on loan. Jessica Kamiri was on and off with some injuries. He's now in the center three, or the back three. But Courtney Ford and Mitchell Tainer came in 3 months ago, and yet this is a very solid back three, of course, and the players in front of them, the likes of PC, Mohamed Abu, Connor Maloney, Jose Gallegos, even the forwards getting back to defend, are just really tough to break down. And especially with that defense, that's what you need if you're going on the road. Especially, you need to be strong. And we're seeing tonight, Orange County and Oakland, no one's scoring, and so it could just be preventing that one goal and scoring that one goal yourself.
Obviously, San Antonio now the final Texas team standing. They're the only ones left out of the whole bunch.
No, all leagues.
Yeah, right. That's
Men's
all
and
leagues.
women's.
They're
MLS
Innovation,
and
the only professional
WSL.
team left.
That's it.
Is this a success already for San Antonio, regardless of what happens in the next game, or do they have to get to the final?
I don't think they have to get to the final. This is already the farthest they've ever been. This is their 6th year. Only once before were they, even at this stage, a Western Conference semifinal. And a few years, 2016, 2018, 2019, they fell just short of the playoffs. And yet, 2017 and now 2021, they had a strong defense each time. And also in both cases, you talked earlier about this being SAFC's second year under Marcina. It was also the second year under Darren Powell that, with the likes of Sebastian Ibiaga, Stephen McCarthy, Greg Cochran, they had a very solid defense. One of the best in the league. I think actually the best in the league. And they kind of just lost a bit of steam at the end of the season. They're not losing steam right now.
Yeah, one thing that I want to remind our listeners and the people that follow the Striker Texas, doesn't matter where this game is, Jonathan Check is going to be there. So the Striker Texas believes in a professional and in-depth coverage of the Texas teams. We believe in Texas soccer, and we're going to be there. And if the game is here, we're going to have a full panel here also again. It's exciting. We wish we could be doing this kind of things with our MLS and with MLS teams, with the Dash also in the NWSL. But it's an exciting moment for Texas, exciting moment for soccer, exciting moment for the Striker Texas. Man, we couldn't ask for more.
Exactly. Final thoughts, Roberto?
Yeah, my final thoughts is here. 0-0 OC Oakland. Hopefully, in a way, I have good friends at OC, but in a way, I really want Oakland to win this so we can host it here. Another full day of shows here, but don't be disappointed. Our friends from RGV. Again, I say I think we have a strong base for how this year was built, a strong base for next year, and excited to see what we can all do next year.
And a good traveling contingent also coming up from the Valley. That's in final thoughts on this game.
I think the final thoughts is definitely RGV. It's a heck of a ride this season for the fans down in the Rio Grande Valley. But at the end, the better team had to win. And the team that locked down the most important aspect, I think, of a championship winning team went through into the next round and will represent Texas in the Western Conference Final. This isn't a failure of any sorts by RGV, Wilmer Cabrera, or the team. But there's definitely a lot to build up upon in this offseason. And, there's always next year. You guys remember, guys, Rome wasn't built in a day. And sometimes the best dynasties take a while to build.
It's always next year for RGV. San Antonio will be saying this year is our year. Jonathan, the hometown guy, tell us your final thoughts on this game and what's to come.
First of all, I'll echo what Edson says with this being a great stepping stone for RGV, and that's what I was telling him during the game. That's what I was telling him on the way over here. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, SAFC was solid last year until sort of the end of the season, and then fell out in the first round of the playoffs. But obviously, there was a firm foundation built there, and I'm sure RGV is going to do the same thing. And you have to consider they had 2 wins last season.
Yes.
Considering how far they came this year, that is a phenomenal leap, and I'm sure they're going to be even better next year. As for SAFC, though, like I've been saying, it's 240 minutes of soccer at most. They have been playing really well these last few matches on both ends of the ball. Even last week, if you didn't follow that match, they get 2 early goals, and they had a very solid defensive performance for 60 minutes. And like I've said, they can go anywhere and win anywhere. And you never know what's going to happen.
Before we go, Victor, I want once again to thank the front office for San Antonio FC. Preston, Tim Holt, Bobby Paris, everybody that support the Striker Texas, supported us to be here today. Front office of RGV, Juanita, Alonso, everybody down there.
Mairani during the season as well.
That's it. That she moved to the basketball right now.
Correct.
She was it a downgrade that they did with her? She was what happens? It'll go from soccer to basketball. Come on, that's a downgrade. But anyways, again, not just them, but also thanking the front office of all the Texas teams that have supported the Striker Texas over this past year. We're not saying goodbye because we're going to be back here next week, right? There's still at least one more week of professional soccer in Texas. And the Striker Texas likes this.
That's right. And if you want to follow all the Texas comings and goings on soccer from the professional level all the way down to the grassroots, the strikertexas.com is your place to go. Your subscription gets you all the coverage. San Antonio FC, Jonathan Check, Edson down in the Valley, and obviously Roberto with the podcast, the Striker Texas. I don't think
I'm just having fun. It's my hobby. This is so much fun.
No, but I mean,
yes.
How many outlets have given this kind of coverage consistently throughout the year? And obviously, it's it's a building year for RGV. It's a building year for SAFC. It's also a building year for the Striker Texas. Thank you for joining us here from San Antonio. And like Roberto said, we have one more week of soccer, so keep it tuned in.
Hopefully, we know who SAFC's opponent is by tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to waking up to the 128th round of PKs.
Support local soccer.